Around the world and across the ages, this is the Cavern Today's Myst 30th Anniversary Special, our podcast for autumn 2023. I'm Sh'aeri, your host for this episode. On September 24th, 1993, a game called Myst was released, which would forever change the way we thought about gaming. Its success earned it the title of best-selling PC game for nearly a decade, helped to push the CD-ROM format into the forefront, and earned it lasting recognition as one of the trailblazers of the adventure game genre. A decade later, on November 11th, 2003, a spin-off called Uru was released, the first piece of what would become a virtual world players could explore together, diving deep into the lore behind the Myst universe. And while there were a couple of false starts along the way, Uru's virtual dunny is still going strong 20 years later, thanks in part to a fiercely dedicated fanbase who call this world home. To celebrate these incredible milestones, we've prepared a very special show we think you'll love. In addition to the usual Cavern news, we'll be featuring 2 op-ed segments, a music piece by Maurus, a deep dive into Uru history, and a return to the old school with a new TCT Mad Lib. But we also have a very special set of guests. If you'll recall, in our last episode, you heard all about our adventures at Mysterium. Remember how we all individually asked Rand to come on the show? Well, in true Cyan fashion, he didn't disappoint. This episode, Rand and Robyn Miller join us for TCT Talk. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the Cavern Today's Myst 30th Anniversary Special.
Sara'Aou Explorers, this is Alhon bringing you your TCT News Report for Autumn 2023. Attendees to Mysterium in Spokane this year were wowed by an artifact featuring suspected Garo Hevti that was revealed by Rand Miller. The artifact is one product of ongoing archaeological operations surrounding the Riven remnants in Eddy County, New Mexico. Rand Miller stated that it was possibly used by Gen to stabilize the fissure prior to the Aegis collapse. The DRC has yet to comment on any potential breaches of DRC Directive 213.4.2, which strictly forbids the revealing of text from descriptive books, though, since they have been inactive of late, we do not expect to receive any commentary from them at this time. Given the unique and potentially hazardous nature of this find, we recommend explorers take extreme caution when engaging in research and avoid replication until we have a greater collective understanding of its function. Also announced was a new revision of the Book of Atris, which debuted with a Mysterium exclusive cover for pre-order. Like the upcoming Riven remake, these new editions seek to incorporate some revisions based on new Dunny research. Revisions of the other 2 novels are also planned, though no confirmed timeline has been given for this just yet. Longtime explorer Claire Hummel, affectionately known in the Cavern community as Shumla, recently announced she is now employed at Cyan Inc., saying on Twitter, quote, "I can't talk about what's on the horizon just yet, short of helping to get Cyan's Riven remake out the door. But I'm thrilled to finally be a part of this studio, officially, after 30 years of wistful pining. If my ancient Riven fan art is anything to go by, it's been a long time coming." End quote. In Cavern news, an individual believed to be a native of the age Rishu has been reported in Cavern recently. While this individual, known as Runame, is reportedly friendly and helpful to explorers, the Cavern Today, as usual, advises explorers to exercise caution when interacting with any individuals believed to be otherworlders. At November's All Guilds meeting, Rarefied from the Volunteer Restoration team confirmed that work on the Lattice is officially underway to merge the mainline framework with a branch the Modern Guild of Writers have been working on for the past decade, affectionately nicknamed Huru. This work will be extremely extensive and require an entirely new shard of the Lattice be created in order to properly test. Once completed, this upgrade will not only bring significant quality of life improvements for most explorers, but will also make future restoration efforts easier as well, with one reported goal being the ability to allow most explorers to choose between different Lattice shards on their own, without needing separate key installs. We wish Rarefied and the rest of the Volunteer Restoration team the best of luck with these efforts. In other restoration news, the previously reported seismic activity in Naybree has now subsided. and the Cavern Today has received reports that some explorers have now been able to access a previously inaccessible beach area of the age. As usual, the Cavern Today advises explorers to please exercise extreme caution when exploring beyond officially sanctioned areas, and to please remember that the emergency scaffolding is there for your safety. After being inoperable since the Great Scream of 2006, the automatic doors to the Agura Museum and Library are finally fully operational once again, thanks to the efforts of volunteer restoration team member Hazato. When asked for comment, Hazato had this to say, quote, "Well, after finding out that the doors were broken, I poked at it and found a few bad sensors. Added a little elbow grease, and real grease, and voila, doors working again." End quote. The Cavern Today still advises explorers to exercise caution around these now operational doors, and not to test these sensors by sticking a limb or a head through the threshold, or by linking out while inside. Volunteer restorers Christopher Thurberg and Keith Lord have completed work refurbishing an island outside of Agura into a memorial commemorating the fall of Denis. This memorial island, also known as Bon Tefunet, will give many explorers their first glimpse of Kareth's Arch from outside Agura. An opening ceremony will be held in the Chiso Preniv Library Saturday, November 18 at 12 o'clock key time. Finally, restoration work continues on the Great Shaft. While Patrick Dulabon and his team have been hoping this expansion would be safe enough to open to the public by the end of 2023, it is looking like more time may be required to ensure it's in the best possible condition. In the meantime, Patrick and restorer Age Explorer have been investigating what may be a path to the surface of Chiso Preniv from the library's basement. The volunteer restoration team will share more information on both of these efforts once info is available. For additional Cavern news, remember to attend the monthly All Guilds meeting, held in Curel on the first Saturday of each month at 13 key time, and to check the Guild of Messengers website for additional updates. That's all for this edition of TCT News. For the Cavern Today, this is Alhon, signing off.
Thanks, Alhon. Now, there's a rumor going around the studio that some of the fellas are hatching some kind of plan involving the Myst library. Those troublemakers, they better not break anything. Well, anyway, in the meantime, it's no secret that for many of us, puzzles are a core part of our enjoyment of Myst. But our staffer Ankhangel has prepared a special segment to remind us that there's so much more to the magic of Myst than just plain puzzles.
I've never liked puzzles much. Maybe that's overstating it. Puzzles were just never the thing I was after. I don't think I've ever finished an adventure game without some kind of guide. I suppose I never had the patience for feeling stumped. And yet, I still find myself drawn to those experiences, called, like so many others, to see the pieces and put them together. It's not a mystery to me why I'm not so into figuring it out myself. Putting aside the various quirks of brain chemistry that give me difficulty with visualization and patience, my first experience with Myst was following in someone else's footsteps. My brother's notes were already in the book, and there was no unseeing what he'd written down. But the strange thing was that even having the path laid out didn't seem to make me want to walk it any less. Maybe it was my upbringing that primed me to see value in the experience, in the value of the story itself. Even knowing how the story goes, the story's still worth telling, after all. This was something my parents gave me, an appreciation for allegory and for parables. To me, a story is more than just a telling. It's meaning and intention, thoughts and feelings and fears and dreams, all bound up in a narrative to be passed on. This is what calls me, to walk the path, to hear the story, and to learn what is to be taught. I've learned many things on this path. The start of it was simple enough. A story of two brothers who destroyed the wonders they had been given. Then the story of a boy and his grandmother, who asked what he saw. The story of his father, mad and destructive with false pride. I learned of the fall of the great city, how that same pride ruined Denis so long ago. I learned about keeping and about giving back, about the journey, the going down and the coming back up, and about the least. Of all these, the lessons about the least are something I will always hold dear. The path I've walked through life has been marked by stories, by their lessons, by the wisdom of those who have gone before me, by the notes left in the book. Walking the path and hearing the stories is what shaped me into who I am, a conduit for the wisdom of those who have walked it before me, and maybe someday a teacher to pass that wisdom on to someone else who will hear it. Others will find and mark the path. They always do, and they already have. I am called to hear them, and to walk the path they've laid. My name is Ankhangel, and now you have heard my story.
Maurus! What the heck are you doing?
Trying to get this stone door open, man. I want to know what the real Myst Island looks like. I gotta know.
Sure, but not like that. This is a historical site, man. Don't damage it.
Alright, fine. I barely made a dent anyway. Things like indestructible, like Nara or something.
Isn't Nora usually more metallic looking?
Look, Maurus, I know you were eager for us to come take a look at this door, but... well, I don't want to say I don't believe you that there's a way out of here.
But...
I said I don't want to say it. Sheesh!
I think we're just looking for the proof in the pudding here.
Or the proof that there is pudding.
well, at the very least, if I can't manage it, I'm only gonna disappoint the two of you.
Yeah, about that.
Hey, Dalken, I thought you might have found an explosive way to get the door open already.
Pyrotechnics in this tight of an enclosed space might be too dangerous even for Stunt Dalken.
Nothing is too dangerous for Stunt Dalken.
Yeah, but it might be dangerous for us, so let's stick a pin in that for now.
Alright. Well, if breaking through the door is out of the question, maybe there's a hidden button, lever, trick floor tile, or maybe it's a voice-activated door. Miss Library, open door. No, okay. Computer, open door. Clap on. Okay, you guys all laugh, but if one of those had worked, you'd be way more impressed. Come on.
That is what I'm here for. I'm here to be impressed. Well, entertained. I'm here to be entertained. Though if the clapper had worked, I might have been offended.
Okay, Maurus. What else?
Let's gently check all the books. Are there books? If there's books, maybe there's a button behind one, or a pressure release, or I don't know, something.
A National Geographic. You think Atris's family read that?
It could be a clue, or it could be an explorer disrespecting this highly important archaeological site. The world may never know.
Anyone, see anything?
I'd definitely say if I saw something. I think we all would.
Okay, not the bookshelf. So, we need to find a pressure switch, button, something, anything. I don't know. Dalken, why are you hanging from the light fixture?
One of these could be a lever.
Or just break things.
Okay, yeah. Let's try to be gentle in our search here and just Just put the National Geographic back, just in case.
Okay, let's feel and or tap on the walls and gently stamp on any tiles to see if that triggers anything.
I hate to say it, Maurus, but this might be a fool's errand.
I was hoping to see Myst Island proper.
Perhaps it's best left a mystery.
Yeah, okay. I guess we should get back to work on the podcast. All right, well, see you guys there.
I hope he isn't too disappointed. Oh, see you all back at the hood.
I'll get over it, he'll get over it. The state of things hasn't actually changed. I'll see you all over in the hood.
See you there, Dalken.
Well, Miss Library, you win this oh. Wait, what's this? I'm gonna go ahead and close that right up. That one, I think I just might keep to myself. For now.
Hey folks, this is Maurus from the Cavern Today. Just a quick note that as we were wrapping up the recording of our talk with Rand and Robyn, we noticed that there had been an issue with our audio capture setup. Thankfully, we were able to salvage a recording of the whole talk, but unfortunately the audio quality is a little rough around the edges here, and generally speaking, not to the standard quality we would really prefer to have on the show. So we do apologize for that. But it's still a really great talk that we think you folks are really going to love. So we just ask that you bear with us through the audio issues this time, and we'll take this as a learning experience for next time, I guess is the best way to put it. But without further ado, I will go ahead and turn things over to my past self to get things started. Take it away, past Maurus. Welcome back to TCT Talk. With us today are Alhon.
Hello.
Ankhangel.
Greetings.
Dalken Starbyne.
Howdy.
Esto Centura.
Sara'Aou.
I'm Maurus, and we are thrilled today to have two very, very special guests on the pod, Rand and Robyn Miller. How are you, gentlemen?
Very good. We're really good.
Thanks
Happy
for
to be
having us.
here.
So, a hot question on everybody's mind. Everybody wants to know. Cake or pie?
Seriously, we've been talking about this for weeks.
Cake or pie, Robyn? Cake or pie?
Oh, it depends on the holiday. Yeah,
Situational pie.
On Thanksgiving, I would say pie, but on my birthday, I want cake.
Yeah, I generally like cake unless I have so much whipped cream that it's just sinful, and then I will. Then I would love
At the point where it ceases to be cake.
Yeah, if I will eat pie if it's mostly whipped cream.
If it's apple pie, no way. I do not like apple pie.
Oh,
No.
So maybe that sounds
Really?
American. I don't know.
That's
but-
un-American.
I would remind you that pizza is pie.
Okay.
Oh, that's cheating. That's not the question. This was about sweets.
Not even
I don't
cheating,
like
because
I'm not a
cheesecake
fan of
is also pie.
Yes, I was just going to touch on that.
It's true.
Cheesecake is half cake, half pie. It's beautiful.
Oh, that's okay. You guys are getting technical. It's too fun.
You taught us to think.
That's true. That's true. That is true. You designed the game where we all had to think. So, but let's get a little more serious. Rand and Robyn. Robyn, having stepped away from Cyan full time a couple years ago, and Rand, as you're beginning to enjoy a well-deserved retirement at this point, has your perspective on your creative output with these titles changed at all with a little bit more distance? What do you guys think?
Well, I'll start. Yes, it changes every year. I think, after Myst came out and it was so successful, I was, there's a weird kind of I don't know how to describe it. I don't think either of us are too egotistical. I mean, everybody's egotistical, I guess, to some extent, but after that kind of success is thrown at you, it's kind of weird. And I thought, I've got answers to things and understand things, and the longer and more distant you get from that success, you realize, oh no, a lot of it is about doing a lot of hard work and also luck.
I would agree. I'm sorry not to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
But I felt more because we did a lot before Myst, a lot of kids games,
Right.
and then suddenly, boom, Myst, this huge success, and it felt more like right when it was so successful, like, hey, we're kind of talented.
I mean, you do have to give yourself some credit eventually.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe.
There's a lot of talented people.
There's a lot of talented people, and I think, in hindsight, after so many years looking back, when we released it, and there were like 3 other games on the market, and that were real competition. Now there's millions of other games on the market, and there was, like you say, we were just very, very lucky. Now, like Rand said, also, it was a lot of hard work. Work was the main ingredient for us.
Yeah. We both pay a lot of attention to detail, and I think that doesn't change. You realize that the way things get done, I've realized over the years, the way things get done, matter of fact, Rob and I were just talking about this yesterday. We are both tool users. Like, we love to dig in and find a tool and use a tool that will help us, in that case, make Myst better. We used everything we could. We got Strata to, do the models, and every time they updated Strata, we dig in to see, oh my gosh, I can extrude and something and twist it as I extrude it now. Or I remember morph tools come out, and you did the morph to skull, the rose to skull morph. Because,
classic.
Yeah, so those are, I think those are some of the things you realize later on also are like so important, that you keep up with the tools and you use the tools and you don't spin your wheels on things that maybe the tools can help with.
Right. And we even used those tools. Tools came about throughout the course of the production that you can, if you look at Myst in the right way, you can see how Myst, the game itself, got more sophisticated over the course of the production because of our tool use. But was it luck? I think to a large extent it was, or we were just very fortunate.
So I'll sum it up this way, see if you agree.
Please do.
And by the way, we'll get about, like, at this rate, we'll probably answer about 3 questions.
There'll be 3 good questions, though.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right.
I'll sum it up this way, and I think I've said this before, but it's like a lot of hard work gives you like a roll of the dice. The more hard work you do, the more rolls of the dice you get. But you don't win with every roll of the dice. It's still, you're just rolling the dice.
Gosh, it's so true.
Yeah.
And I imagine there's a lot of that's also knowing when you've got something good and you can work with it.
Boy, I guess it is. I look at back how confident we were about Myst, or how we had to act confident about it.
Well, I think I really believe that, because I remember when we were finished, like with the first island.
Yeah.
We knew it was very different than anything else out there.
Yeah.
And we felt like, this is, we're going to be able to sell this game and make enough money back to keep going and keep making more games.
That's true.
Like we were, and that was huge for us.
Yeah.
So we
were bootstrapping ourselves.
Yeah,
but a game at a time.
Right, but we did have that. It wasn't a cocky sort of confidence. It was just sort of like, we knew it was different.
Yeah.
Sort of that rubber meets the road moment.
Yeah.
Right.
We still
momentum.
I think we looked at it, not that it might not be a bestseller, but at least it would be a pretty big niche. It would have a good would have a good run, bigger than what we had done. But anyway, yeah. We may
Yeah, I
be
mean,
getting a
there's
little off topic, but we've
no,
learned a
no,
lot.
no.
Suffice it to say, we've learned a lot in the intervening years.
I still feel like there's almost, you look at a lot of the sort of contemporaries of Myst, those other puzzle games that are on the market at the same time, or the ones that tried to come in to take your guys' thunder, when Myst got popular, and they don't. I'm always surprised that they don't get it. They don't understand the way integration. They think that walking down this path and then there being a puzzle there is the fun, and that's not the fun. That's not what it's. I always found that interesting. Yeah,
one that I think
true.
does
We played-
is Quern.
We played those early. Back in the day when we were doing Myst, there was a couple games that had come out that were in the multimedia category that I think we got shoved.
back in the day,
Seventh Guest was in that
Yep.
category. Remember Hellcab?
Those were before Myst.
And we would look at those and we would pick the things that we didn't like about those. Like Hellcab, I remember specifically driving down cities, as you're in this cab, and there'd be an alley, and you couldn't go down that alley. And we'd be like, well, what? We should be able to go down that alley. Why can't we drive anywhere in this city? And that influenced us putting Myst on an island so that we could at least try to explore the whole island. And then with Seventh Guest, I think we felt the same as you guys. Like it had a real cool taste of being in a place, but it was more about just moving to a puzzle, and the puzzle didn't feel as integrated to us,
Right.
Not being a place and to being a set piece.
So we were in that regard, and I'm not meaning to diss those. I'm meaning to say we could learn by what other people were doing. As they innovated in their own ways, we were kind of migrating to what we liked and didn't like about those, just our own opinion.
Which is what any medium really is like. You're always learning from each other. And, I think that's how games have continued. Then.
Yeah.
Learning, iterating.
Everyone sort of bounces off of each other.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So jumping forward a little bit, most recently you guys released Firmament, and you guys are now deep in work on the new Riven remake that you guys have been developing. Just ballpark, if you guys have any thoughts on this, do you have any lessons learned from your development cycle for Firmament that you feel that the new Riven will benefit from?
I've learned that I want to retire.
Oh dear.
That is fair.
Understandable.
Yeah, how is that retirement going?
I'm dribbling out little by little. Riven is hard. Firmament was hard, but Firmament was a bit of a transition project for me. I've been involved so much on the design on projects, like Abduction and stuff, that Firmament was more of an experiment in letting other people help with design and doing some things as a committee and try to prove some things either worked or didn't work. And, some things worked and some things didn't work. And if you've played Firmament, you may feel that way too. I still love the story, but
honestly, I think the story is probably its strongest part.
Yeah. There were some problems with it that we could get into or whatever. Either way, the point of this all is it takes a fresh mind and really a lot of energy to do this. And Robyn and I had a lot of that. Well, I'll speak for myself. I had a lot of that when I was younger. And the older you get, you realize I gotta let other people jump in and take control of this stuff to make good things. So that's what I'm taking away.
I will. I mean, this is the only thing I can say to that comment, which is, I don't know if this is specifically addresses it, but Riven, when we made Riven, I don't think we learned all of our lessons from Myst, because we did a lot of things right with Myst, almost accidentally. And we, kind of maybe just intuitively. And then we went on and did Riven, and we didn't put all of those things into play. And we were just designing a whole new world in this same sort of Myst universe, and we forgot about some of those same things that made Myst so great. And so going back into the Riven remake was a chance to usher in some of those things that made Myst so good.
Sort of an opportunity to bring in the lessons
that makes Riven great.
Yeah.
Be very interesting to see how that changes the way it looks, and I really liked the Myst 2020 remake. I feel like it did a lot of things very well.
Yeah, Myst allows us to experiment a bit more than Riven. Riven feels like so much of it had specific things that we're dealing carefully with it because we don't want to mess it up. But to Robin's point, early on, Robin in particular brought up we're missing a little bit of the magic that Myst had, and I won't go into details, but it's places or things that kind of are more mysterious, and he had a large part in kind of what that would be or areas that could be. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Kind of talking about Firmament and the Myst 2020 version, one of the big emphases of just the projects over the last few years from Abduction forward have all been VR access. Kind of what got you into thinking, hey, we're looking at this as not just being a flat screen game, but I want all of these to be VR playable, and with all and how much extra challenge did that add into a game versus just making a flat screen walk around adventure game?
I think it's a great question. I can answer it really easily. VR just seems like a no-brainer to me. I mean, when I go in a VR world, it feels so real and fun and interesting. It doesn't mean that we're doing it perfectly or anybody's doing it perfectly. There's a lot of ways to interpret VR, but it just feels like you're in a place more than ever. And that's what we've always loved doing. As far as how much complexity it adds, insane amounts of complexity, like crazy. Like the company is mad that I love VR so much because they're like, we could do this so much better and easily if we didn't have to make this VR version. And in particular, lower end versions, like for the Quest, those are killer because it's an amazing system. You wear it on your head with no wires attached, but it can't have a lot of power.
It's a phone.
Because of that. Yeah. So squeezing all that in there is hard. It's fun to walk around and see it there, but it's cool to do it, but it's really hard.
But this relates to something. Now, I didn't have anything to do with choosing to make games for the VR systems, but it relates exactly to something I said earlier about when he made Myst and there was only 3 other games in the market. Making it, what was an advantage there is that there were systems out there, and we were kind of making for technologies and pushing for technologies like CD-ROM a little bit ahead of the curve, and that gave us a huge advantage. And so
I remember Myst being the killer app that sold the CD-ROM drive. Yeah.
Well, and people didn't even have CD-ROM drives at that point. But we just thought it was cool. We just thought it'd be great to have a game that would fit on a CD-ROM, and people would have CD-ROM someday. So if you made a game that big, it would, if you build it, people would come.
I remember being young and CD game that had a full world in it was just mind blowing at the time.
Yeah,
such an imagination opening experience that you could just be in a place and look around.
It's ironic because I think we learned that lesson in our very first game we did. We shipped the very first game we shipped was actually 2 versions of the game. One was called The Manhole. But the other, and it was 5 discs. You required a hard drive to play. And when we shipped that, Very few people had hard drives. So we also built a single floppy disk version of the manhole called the fire hydrant. And you could play it on a single floppy and install it and whatever. And we thought we would sell a ton of those. We thought, oh, not many people have hard drives. You know, they're going to want that smaller version. Well, the opposite was what happened. It was one of the few things that did require a hard drive. And so everybody with hard drives kind of wanted it. And it was probably, you know, a 5 or 10 to 1 sales, selling the more advanced technology. So, you know, it was a weird early lesson we got.
So it always makes sense to build for the technologies that are just around the curve or that don't even exist yet, because they're going to exist soon.
Hungry early adopters.
Right.
Yeah, everyone's looking for something to do with their new thing.
Right, exactly.
So I had a point here that I was going to save for a little later, but I think this conversation is actually a pretty good jumping off point. So obviously, since the original release of Myst, part of what made it so engrossing, so interesting, is that even in all the handbook materials that came with it, you guys always referred to Myst and its universe as a thing that actually exists, that there's historical records for. And even most recently, when you talked about how you're going about some of the changes that you're incorporating into Riven, you phrased it sort of in such a way where we're taking advantage of new discoveries and thinking about how we can use that to more properly realize this vision. What I find,
plate you guys found in New Mexico is really interesting.
Mind-blowing archaeological discovery. I'm really sad I wasn't there to see it in person.
Now, what I find really interesting about that is, of course, you look at the novels and the way in which the process of writing in Age is described. There's sort of a similar philosophy there, where it's not so much that we're creating this, but the creative process is sort of taking this thing that exists in the ether and using the tools that are available to you, bringing it into this reality almost. And I find that that's a really interesting philosophical way of thinking about the creative process. And I'm curious if that's something that you guys thought about sort of directly, or has that always sort of influenced the way that you think about creativity in general, or that sort of thing?
Well, I mean, I think that makes the world more believable for any time you talk about, for example, Myst. If you talk about it in that way, it is a real place. You want to make it a real place. So if you talk about it in those terms, it becomes more believable, and it's as simple as that. You know, like, for example, the album that I released, there was a lot of archaeological speak in it, and that instead of musical speak, and all those things, just it's one step further toward making it feel like, okay, this whole Myst universe actually exists. And I think that's just so, I know that's the kind of stuff I like.
Yeah.
You know, we both love that kind of those worlds are what it turn us on. So.
Yeah. No,
it's such an invitation to play.
I love your analogy to writing the books, because it does feel like that this place exists, and you're gradually putting pieces together to kind of create a link to this new world. And I don't know where those things come from when you pull them together. It's like you can hear musicians sometimes. I think even you've said this, Robin. Like sometimes the music feels like it's there, and it's just coming from somewhere. Like, but and then a side note, we always feel the things that are most motivating to us are not works of fiction. They are world building. It's when people have built worlds. It's when they've put too much work into their work, and and it feels like there's background, like Dune or Lord of the Rings, or those things that are so, you feel like, oh my gosh, this feels real. There's something inspirational about that.
It's got firm ground you can stand on.
Yeah,
And
you can. You relate to it. You want to go there. You feel like you could go there.
Right, and
it
these
welcomes you in with
read
imagination.
Yeah. That's what influenced us.
And
for
I
sure.
would be lying if I didn't say that George Lucas wasn't a huge inspiration for us as well, or me. I mean, I think you
for
too,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
And just the way he created early marketing for Star Wars. Everything it made it feel like just extensions of the world.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I know because I was a kid when Star Wars came out, when the first Star Wars came out, and anything associated with that world, it just made it feel more like the world.
Mhm.
That was incredibly inspiring for me.
Yeah, even the fact that the first Star Wars movie started and said Episode 4, and you were like, wait, whoa, did I miss the first 3? It made it feel like you were catching the middle of a real world story that was going on. That had history. It had
It makes you. It fills your brain with questions, and you immediately start sitting down and paying attention because you might get answers.
Even if he didn't have that history all fleshed out yet, it feels like it was. It felt like, oh, somebody's put work behind the work here. Somebody has done more than just give us a surface world. Somebody has got something deeper, and those are the ones that resonate with us because that's the world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that as a way of thinking about the creative process in general, because it sort of takes the ego out of the equation a little bit, where you're not creating this thing, you are sort of the conduit through which this thing that exists somewhere is being realized into this world. I find that so fascinating as a philosophy of creativity. Next question here we have from one of our staffers. This is first part is for Robyn specifically, but there's a second half of it which is sort of more general that both of you guys can answer if you'd like. But for Robyn, is there a particular passage of music or theme from one of the soundtracks, something that you didn't write, but that you sort of saw used in context and were sort of like, man, I wish I'd written for that actually? Or barring that, one that in general that you just think did a pretty admirable job of really capturing the whole feel and theme of Myst that you had in your head originally?
Okay, so you're talking about some other piece of music before I began writing Myst, or just somebody else?
Something that like either Tim Larkin or Jack Wall worked on that I guess you really admired and were like, oh, they did they did a good job of sort of getting in my head with how Myst is supposed to feel.
I listened to. I sat down with Tim Larkin in the Cyan basement, which was his studio at one point in time, and he just played through his whole album or his whole soundtrack, and I just loved it. I mean, I was just blown away by that whole soundtrack, and I think that was the one that really struck me. That was the one I really loved. It really felt like it really hit the nail on the head with the Myst world. So,
I just want to interact.
Oh, go for it.
I love Tim's music too.
Oh, we're all big Tim heads here. That's for sure. We love our Tim. But yeah, for both of you, sort of adding on to that, expanding on a little bit, between the two non-Cyan Myst titles, is there a particular idea or concept from one of them that you really admire, or you thought did a really good job of expanding on your universe?
Wait, is there Myst games we didn't make? Sorry, bad joke. It's really hard because being close to it feels like I'm just attached to the stuff we did. I mean, I think I think one of the biggest impressions that was made on me, I guess if I had to choose, was in Exile, getting Brad and getting, real acting
sure.
in, like, for the first time, like, other than, I mean, Riven, let's face it, John Keston was like, oh my gosh, killer good. But, but Brad Dourif's stuff was,
I love Brad.
Yeah, you could tell, that's a professional on a different kind of level. Gen, John Keston was perfectly cast and did Gen great, but Brad was, real actors pull something in and add something in an interesting way. If that I think was intriguing to watch and see in there.
Yeah,
so that was cool.
Just something.
I mean, I liked the real turnaround of Exile too. I mean, the 360 kind of look. There was something intriguing of that. At the same time, and Robin and I have talked about this a lot, it was really satisfying for Robin. I'll put words in his mouth because we've talked about it. Being able to design every single screen in there, in a very control the aesthetics of exactly what the user saw.
Like the slideshow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
pick out a specific angle. Make sure you have what you want framed.
Yes, I mean it makes it you're really sculpting exactly what the user sees.
Yeah.
And that makes it both maddening but also very satisfying because you've got like this little bit of a plant over on the left-hand side and you have the pathway moving down in exactly this serpentine way and yeah, it was just really satisfying because every single thing the user sees at every point in time. So almost at the point when everything began to become real time, that was like almost a frustration. Like, no, we don't know what they're going to see anymore.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to have to come up with different solutions.
It's just a totally different,
It is.
But you both lose something but gain 10 times more, I think is what it is.
Well, you gain continuity. It's like a comic or book. You have these frames, and those frames paint the picture in a very different way of the world. Of the comic book.
In the old versions, you mean, or the new?
Yeah, no, in our new one, I mean, like the old versions were more like a comic book, where
they were more like
you
a comic
control
book.
those frames that you see, and so you can piece together the world and have a lot more control of it, and that's really good from an author's point of view, a little bit frustrating from a discovery point of view.
Well, I think the funny thing is a lot of people, and these are people who are not like serious game players, or these are people who are just sort of nominally played the game and didn't realize that it wasn't real time. Right. But it did both those games, both Myst and Riven. Myst did need to become real time. And Riven does need to become real time.
It's worthwhile. It's a worthwhile effort. Because I mean, we all dream about what is between those frames.
Yes.
What if I could look a little under this thing or see? Wait, what is right there between those two things? And that's also a lot. That's really hard to put all those in. Too.
Everyone hates having incomplete
very
pictures.
Interested to see what comes out of it.
Right. Yeah.
And speaking to between those frames, like two of my earliest computer related memories had to do with Myst. One was thinking that the stars were an actual planetarium program, so I would keep putting in my birth date and stuff as a little kid, thinking that that's what the stars look like. But more importantly was like when you would get that passageway from the library back to the tower that went up. Because of the lighting and the shading in there, I was convinced that every single light sconce, because of the shadow behind it, was another passage that just went straight into pitch black. And that was the most terrifying part of a video game to me as a child. And it's fascinating coming back to it, having played the 3D remakes, the ones through the 2000s, and then Myst 2020, and being like, this is just a hallway with a lantern. Like there's literally nothing spooky meant about this, but that most vivid memory of how your brain fills in that comic book slideshow of I'm just waiting for a monster to pop out at me the moment I go around this, and I have to speed click through it or else they'll get me. It's really, really interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, that's really, really interesting. It's also fascinating to go back to the original Myst, and it's so tiny. The resolution is so small. And so the idea of comic book, is even more appropriate.
Your imagination has to do so much filling in with the basic shapes.
Exactly.
There's a content creator called H Bomber Guy who recently did a retrospective on Myst, and that was a point that he really hammered on, is that as much as we all like the real time, the way everything is framed in Myst is perfect. It is perfectly framed, every shot. It gives the player the exact information that they need at that given time. In every
I think that attention to detail really shows through.
For taking those photographs, I'll just call them photographs.
Might as well.
I took for granted like how easy it would be to take the photographs to imply movement. And when we got to Riven, we had a big team of artists, about 12 artists. And in that team of artists, there was only one artist who understood how to take those photographs to imply movement. And he was so talented at that. He was like, I could give him those, those, like that assignment, and he just flew through it. But it was not an easy assignment, like you say, or it was not an easy thing to understand. Because in some places you had to set cameras very far apart. And then in some places you had to set them extremely close together. So
that's one of those things that's easy to take for granted that took a lot of time to finesse.
Composition's such a fickle art.
So moving on a little bit here, we had from one of our staffers wanted to ask about Anane, the age from Uru. I think that the feeling is simultaneously one of the most impressive age concepts, but also potentially very frustrating. We'd love to hear a little bit more about how the idea for that came out, this sort of fake world that you sort of expand on and realize it's just a smaller part of the bigger picture. And also, is there a little bit of a sadistic gym coach that sort of took a little bit of pleasure knowing that people, they're going to have to run a bunch of laps?
Exercise nerd.
The running around was never anything that anybody thought was fun. It was like a necessary evil. But the real fun of Anane was the reveal. If there's anything that I love in designing worlds, it's the reveal. And I think Robyn would, say that too. Even talking about the scenes as you lay them out, and even if you're doing comic book, it's frame and a frame, and how much are you going to turn the page, to work. What is it around the corner? And so those were fun. With Teledon, the reveal was, we're going to start you in a small little hut that feels, I'll start with this and then get to Anane. You start like you're in a small little hut it's in dark. You see dark out the windows, and then you get out of the hut and realize, oh no, there's a bigger world here. I'm inside some other kind of thing. And then the reveal goes that the world keeps changing from what you thought it was. It was very small, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and finally you get outside and you realize it was actually a hut in a mushroom in a world, which I just love that
joy
idea.
of the progressive reveal.
Yeah, right. You had no idea when you link into that where it's going to end up, and that's just fun to me. So Anane was that, except the Truman Show version.
It's such a great rug pull.
Yeah, and it's all there. I think, if we did Anane again, I'm sure it would change here and there. But we had such great discussions about, there should be this something in the distance, a crack in the distance, something that gives you a hint. It's there the whole time. You see it. You think you're in a world. It's the whole time. But it's this really meta kind of, interesting thing because when we build worlds, we build, in 3D, we build them with a dome, a sky dome too. So it's, it felt like we're making this world, but we're kind of playing on the fact that the sky dome is actually a sky dome, and you're going to work your way to the edge of it and then sneak out through it and realize, oh, it's a bigger world. What's behind the scenes? But it all is that weird reveal that I think is so much fun. That mystery that keeps you searching for, what is that one thing? There's one thing over there that if I could get to that, I might be able to understand what's going on. Those are cool moments.
Oh yeah.
I mean, incidentally, this is totally just, I'm taking a side little track here, but even Riven had a big sky dome around it.
Yeah.
So that was we built these islands, and then there was this giant sky dome built around the world. So
somebody went out and took photos of the sky, like went to a hill, nearby hill, and took
that's right,
360 photos of the sky, and just those clouds that were in Riven.
Right.
Honestly, it's the big reveals, and especially increasing recursive reveals like that really attract me to the series. As someone who doesn't even enjoy puzzles that much, it's that mystery and discovery, and especially the big aha moments, the rug pulls where suddenly everything clicks and you realize what is actually going on, is such a brain just electric moment.
Yeah, I love those. So I'll throw in Abduction here only because in my mind, Abduction had a few of those that I thought were gold, and they weren't necessarily environmental reveals as much as they were puzzle language reveals. They were mechanism reveals. Like when you transfer from one spot to the other in Abduction, the first time you realize that, wait, I went here, great, but what was here went back there. That idea that it swaps was like pivotal. And then the first time you realize you could use that is like a really cool, a reveal, but in a different way. One of those aha moments that you talk about that I think we love in almost any kind of entertainment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, and the lead up to that is so perfect because by the time you get to the big puzzle on the forested world, which the name is escaping me at the moment, that really tests your knowledge of that. You're sort of grinning because you're like, oh, wait, I get how this works now. Great. And you're piecing it all together, switching them out. And it's so satisfying to solve once you get there.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say Abduction was perfect. I mean, we all know it has a little problems here and there, but
it was amazing.
But I loved that mechanism. I thought it had a lot of really fun elements to it. Yeah.
I have a question for you guys.
Go ahead.
If I can ask.
Whoa.
Yeah. I'm just curious. What are some other games besides, like the games of the Myst family that you play?
Oh gosh, a lot.
What is your favorite?
What are your favorites?
I'll start off as the weirdo in the room and say that I'm mostly into combat sims. I like Halo, I like Ultra Kill, I like Doom. But the big thing that attracts me to all of these is the doing, the experience of going through, being in a world, and putting yourself in the way you interact with that world. And because I'm a twitchy caffeine addict, most of the time that's combat, but there's still a setting and a theme and sort of a context for what you're doing, and that informs the experience. So it sort of becomes this whole verb that you're taking part in. And then Myst is part of that as exploring being the verb and discovering.
Yeah.
So I think verb strong games are really what I'm into.
Let me ask you guys this as far as my answer to that question is: have you guys heard of the game Outer Wilds?
Yeah. Yeah.
Changed my life, I think, in only the way a game like Myst has previously. In just the way that it rewards curiosity in the sort of same way that a Myst game does. It's but in such a unique spin on that. really wonderful. I think about that constantly, even though I finished it a couple years ago.
Outer Wilds changed my life.
Oh,
that's a good statement. That's a good quote. I love it. Put that on the Steam page.
Yeah, that's a back of the box quote right there.
Hey, you got to be careful jokes you make about the Steam page. Some creators will just slap it on there for spite.
Here's a side note. We had a really bad review of, I think it was Abduction. I don't remember what it was. It was terrible review. I mean, this guy gave us 1 star out of 5 just because he was nasty or something.
He was a jerk.
But it was so funny because what I really wanted to do was take pieces of his review with lots of ellipses, and make it say best game ever, with dots.
I appreciate the way
to say Zelda.
Oh, I'm a huge Zelda fan, especially Zelda.
For sure. Grew up on Ocarina of Time.
I've actually only played 2 Zelda games. I've played Link to the Past, and much more recently, I just played Twilight Princess for the first time.
Yeah, huge classic Zelda fan here. I'm mad that Blue Zelda is the dominant one now. I want my Green Zelda back.
I kind of, speaking on Zelda, I would argue that the more recent Zelda games have been a couple of my favorites, but I could not get into classic Zelda. I don't know why. Once it went to 3D, I did not feel it. But really? Yeah, I would throw in Zelda combined with RPGs. My wife and I are playing through Baldur's Gate right now, since that's kind of the big new thing, and I am kind of constantly playing and replaying the Knights of the Old Republic games, just because the stories and the characters of those were so, nostalgia reasons, of course, very impactful for me as a teenager growing up, but those just hit right in terms of the interactions and seeing how much of modern games, again, playing through Baldur's Gate, kind of harken back to those earlier RPGs that started taking character interaction in, like, controllable character interaction seriously, where what you say to your party members has an effect on how they're going to behave and what's going to happen to them. Like, love seeing stuff like that.
I think the common thread here is, developers who really take trying to do storytelling in an interesting way seriously. It seems to be really the common thread.
My answer along similar lines is the Mass Effect trilogy.
Can't go wrong.
Games. And I love, we were talking earlier too about like big worlds, lots of foundation to them, and Mass Effect delivers a lot of that in the form of the
codex.
The codex,
it's got so much meat on its bones.
It's not the only way that you get it, though, and that's one of the main reasons why I like Mass Effect so much, is like all its stuff is in the world. Like, the world is there. And so like you can read about it if you want to know more, but
and then you also see it in the world,
there. All of those details are there. And they show up again and again and again. So that kind of stuff, that I really dig that.
Very cool.
I definitely agree with Alhon when Alhon said Baldur's Gate. Baldur's Gate and Mass Effect I feel very similarly about, where I've played games like them before, but with those games, the big difference is like the characters in those games, they're not game characters. They're like real people that I'm interacting with. Every line of dialogue is so very carefully thought about that every character feels so fleshed out that, these are real people. These aren't NPCs that are sitting in my computer. This is these are real people that we're interacting with in a story,
These days, most of my own gaming time is actually spent not on a computer, but relaying that experience to others via tabletop gaming. I've been a dungeon master for like the last 15 years or so. And in that time, I have built and built and built worlds and the histories and things. So that you're talking about keeping everything connected, trying to remember, like what Maurus was just saying about NPCs feeling like real people. Well, when you first introduce an NPC, you don't know if he's going to last for 5 seconds, 5 minutes, if they're going to become a recurring character later on. It all depends entirely on the wild factor of the player, who is completely unpredictable. So
yeah, sometimes the gifts get attached to a shopkeeper, and then you have to give them a backstory.
Yeah, now the shopkeeper is their pet.
Yeah. Now, Rand and Robyn, you guys are all D&D heads, right?
Well, not exactly. The story goes is our other brother, Rod, who is aged in between us, was a D&D head in high school. And he would play all the time with a large group of friends. And occasionally we would be around and would catch one of the games and would sit in on one of the games. I probably sat in on the games more than Rand because Rand didn't live in the same household. Rand was married at that time. But Rand and I would kind of, walk away from those games and talk about why did certain things have to be the way they were? Why did we have to roll for intelligence, for example? Why did we have to roll for dexterity or,
why couldn't we just be intelligent?
Right. Why couldn't we just start the game and play us, be us? And that basic idea is what fed into the creation of Myst. The idea of not being an avatar, but being...
Although I do miss my D&D character from those days, Sir Hewlett of Packard.
Oh, I love it. The best D&D characters are the ones based on puns. Trust me.
Fantastic.
But Rand actually made, as an experiment, he made a dungeon. And right?
Yeah.
He made a dungeon.
I took you guys through it.
And then nobody rolled for intelligence. Nobody did any of that stuff. It was just you come through the dungeon and you just make decisions. And it was really cool.
I think I killed them all.
Yeah.
we're just intently listening. I love D&D stories.
Yeah. But that was really cool. That was like a really cool, I think, early introduction to why Myst was Myst.
One of the things that early dungeon had in it, that so many of our games have had since, is the door. Right. Is the door that when you open it, it closes. It closes another door.
Yes,
classic.
That's right.
It's always the first advice I give anyone who's asking for non-spoiler advice for Myst games. Is just remember that doors continue to function once you've used them.
Yeah, that's right. When you open it, you might want to close it
behind you.
You guys have no idea how many hours I lost in Riven trying to just find that one passage that's behind the door because I had no idea it was there.
In that early game Rand made, there was the best version of that has ever been in any Myst game, which was you opened the door. They were this huge doors, and they opened into a courtyard.
Mm-hmm.
And then you opened into the courtyard, and there was nothing. There was no sign of anything. There was no way to get into the castle. You had to close the doors behind you, and then it opened. And it was all on this nice, beautiful, swinging, system. I wish I could draw it for all of you right now. But it was very intelligent. It was really cool. I don't know why we didn't include that in Myst.
We should have. Well,
it's something you can use later, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, okay.
We shouldn't have told
you. Keep it up your sleeve.
Another door gag. Oh no.
Another door gag.
Oh no. I think the next question we want to ask is Dalken, this was your question, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of symbols and iconography that are really powerful in the entire Myst franchise. So, inevitably people are going to be kind of more drawn to and resonate more with certain symbols over others. And so I'm just kind of curious what everyone's kind of favorite symbol or icon from Myst is. Mine personally is the Starfisher. I dig everything about the starfish here. Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. There are a lot that do mean a lot to kind of be repetitive. I gotta say, personally, I really dig journey cloths. I love everything about them. I love the hand iconography as sort of a print, sort of a I've been here, leave your mark, as sort of a community. Like, everyone has touched this. We've all done this. We've all walked this path. And I love the rough material it's made of. The really coarse burlap speaks so much to the sort of asceticism and simpleness of the path that it's trying to portray.
Interesting. You know, for me, I'm going to say I can't possibly choose my favorite because, I was there.
It's always hard to play favorites, yeah.
Creating those symbols, involved in the creation of those symbols. So it's just sort of like, I don't know, it's all, it's all just part of the history of the creation of the games. So I don't have a favorite.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the journey cloth. And it's for reasons that are weird. We actually have a trailer, and we have a journey cloth decal on it.
That's cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
So if you see a little tab trailer driving around with a journey cloth on it, you'll know it's me.
Oh, we'll know. Oh, look out! People are going to start spotting it and posting it. You shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, but I loved the journey cloth. Has a lot of meaning for me because we spent so much time evolving the story. Like the symbol on the cloth represented the different phases even of what Uru would be. Like, phase 1 would be something, phase 2 another thing, and all of those symbols represented like the journey down and the gathering, and then the journey back to the surface when it became Path of the Shell. It connected the middle of that spiral back out to the surface again, which was, it looked like a shell because of that connection. I don't think we've ever described that anywhere before. And
going down.
Now the ending is connected to the beginning.
Exactly. And we made it back out to the surface, and then we were going to continue to evolve that symbol as different I'm doing air quotes episodes of Uru, as since it was going to be a never-ending story. So, it's unfortunate we had to stop, but I do like that. That had we put a lot of thought into that at the time. So that's a favorite of mine.
Mm-hmm. It is kind of an instantly recognizable thing that, at least from somebody in the community who's been able to be around, like you immediately recognize that when you're out with somebody, like when you're, whether it's online or at a fan convention or something, the people who recognized the journey cloth hand symbol, they knew exactly what it was from and exactly what it meant. And it was kind of made that special fraternity.
Yeah. Yeah. There were actual metal artifacts that were found around the Southwest at some point that were based on that journey cloth symbol.
Really? Some of that turned up in the dig?
Yeah.
I've seen that particular iconography in Hopi jewelry from around that area.
Yeah. Yeah. There was certain puzzles in real life that led to the findings of like metal symbols around the Southwest U.S. A few of those back in the day. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are there these? Do you think any of these are still existing?
There might be. I don't think there's any around the Southwest anymore, but I think there are. There might be another one.
Very curious.
Yeah. Anyway,
it was a big fissure. Who knows what fell through?
Exactly right.
So I think this is probably going to be our last question for the day, because we want to be respectful of your time. Esto, we had a question about there's this bit of audio that's been floating around, and we wanted to get your take. And I'll let Esto take it from here to explain the backstory.
So I'm not entirely sure where we got this. I found it floating around in a Discord somewhere, and what it appears to be is a recording of Atris pontificating, as he does, on an age known as Sunblind. And there's only, there's limited clips of them. Nothing's complete. It's maybe like 8-second 15-second clips. What can you tell us about these, if anything?
Boy, I am at a loss.
Completely fair.
It's if it's Atris, it must be the real deal, but
Certainly sounds like him.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is it? What is it?
Yeah, we were listening to this recording. It's either you or someone sounds a hell of a lot like you. We're not sure.
My Atris impression isn't that good.
Nobody's Atris impression is that good. Sorry I'm late, guys.
I'm looking at Rand right now,
Sh'aeri.
asking like, "What's going on? What is going on?"
Yeah,
And Rand's shaking his head, saying,
I don't know.
I don't know. He's saying, "I don't."
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
great!
He
We've got fragments of Atris audio floating around. That'll be interesting.
I'm gonna have to listen to this to see, how good the Atris thing is.
It's either AI or Rand is not telling me something.
We can certainly gather those recordings and send them for your review. It may aid with future archaeological discovery.
Maybe you'll have some extra context and you can make sense of it.
Yeah, we may have to change certain things regarding the canon after we listen to these.
It's not beyond the realm of possibility for Rand to have put out some new Atris.
It's recordings. I haven't done that.
Well, I gave it to a couple people. Be like, put this in random discords.
Okay. I think in the future we're just going to do. Atris is just going to be AI-tris anyway, right?
Oh no, not that.
That's a triple pun, and I dig it.
That is weird.
I knew that would go over great. No. The only Atris stuff I know about is there's a few things that, may be coming out, but you guys, might know about. You guys will be the first to know about any of those things.
Sounds good. Looking forward to breaking some news.
Yeah. Oh boy. It's kind of a big deal if that's floating around and you haven't heard of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to hear it.
That means someone else is putting stuff out that has access to stuff, and that could be a problem, or maybe not.
I am getting a little older, so
yeah. So he's
I broke into the cyan.
He is getting a little senile, so maybe he just made these things, and posted them, and doesn't remember.
I'd do something like that.
Did we want to jump into the DRC directive thing real quick, or should we?
I think it is worth mentioning, given the reveal of the Garo Hefti this summer, which is honestly quite mind-boggling, and we could have an entire discussion just on that. Though I think it is worth asking. Have you received any kind of pushback from the DRC regarding this reveal, given DRC Directive 213.4.2?
Well, the DRC, we've always looked at them from our point of view as not necessarily, we're not necessarily under their control. You figure we're grandfathered in a little before anything that they've come up with. We have a generally good, a fairly good relationship with certain members, and although we haven't been in touch in a lot of years, and a lot of that is subsided a bit, but we get a lot of freedom. I'll just leave it at that.
I was kind of wondering, who are they to tell you what to do?
That's kind of what I just said in very polite terms.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said it and not you. I'm the rude one.
Right, we're press. We can just be as rude as we want.
That's how press works, right? That's how press works.
No, it's not how press works. Okay.
Well, I think that's where we're going to wrap up for today. Thank you so much for joining us, gents.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate having you guys on. Thank you so much for making the time for us.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming on.
For the Cavern Today, this has been Alhon.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Ankhangel.
Be well and think.
Dalken Starbyne.
Farewell, citizens.
Esto Centura.
Sh'aeri. Thanks again, guys.
Sh'aeri.
Hi, I was late, but I was here.
I'm Maurus, and thank you so much once again to our special guests, Rand and Robyn Miller. We hope this is the first of many times you join us.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
Thank you, guys. It was great.
Thank you.
And we're signing off. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Farewell.
That was Shores of Naybree, an original piece by our very own Maurus. As of the new Q3 2023 update, you can now experience this tune in Uru itself as a part of a new addition to the Age of Eder Naybree. Next, we'll turn things over to Esto, who will be premiering the first installment of an exciting new segment for our podcast. Take it away, Esto.
This has been a season of many anniversaries. 30 years of Myst, 26 years of Riven, and now 20 years of Uru. When you link into the cavern, it's clear that much has happened, but the specifics of exactly what may elude you, unless you know where to look. Journals, notebooks, these give us a glimpse, but there's still always more to be found. Today, I'm going to bring some of that history to light. History known to some, and history unknown to others. I am Esto, and this is Deep Dive.
There's a great deal of history that you should know.
Our modern restoration of Denis can be traced back to 1987, when John Fighting Branch Lofton discovered the Denis digging machines hidden in a cavern he found in the American Southwest. He quickly contacted friend and fellow archaeologist Elias Zandi. Zandi was an eccentric man who was known to pay top dollar for valuable historical artifacts. It's said he claimed he felt a connection between himself and these objects. Over time, This connection drew his attention to the American Southwest. In 1988, Lofton and Zandy made their first trip into the caverns. Through a small crack, suddenly, into dunny-made tunnels, past the long-abandoned digging machines, and eventually to the top of the Great Shaft. The two returned as changed men.
I have come to a place I could never have imagined, and yet it seems I have come home. Elias Sandy.
In the following year, Lofton and Zandy reached the Great Dunny Cavern and discovered the ruined city. It was clear that the size of this discovery required him to seek assistance, and so he contacted Dr. Richard A. Watson. Zandy began purchasing thousands of acres of land surrounding the area where the tunnel had been found. It is worth noting that Elias began telling stories of his discoveries to two brothers who were friends of his son, Jeff Zandy. These brothers were Rand and Robyn Miller. Elias wanted to spread the word of his discovery in a very subtle way to others he thought might feel the call. By 1990, John Lofton, Dr. Richard Watson, and Elias Zandy were ready for another expedition.
The further I got from the surface, the closer I felt to home. Dr. Watson.
The journey lasted 3 weeks, and brought the explorers to the island of Agura. It was here numerous artifacts were recovered, including the journals of Catherine, wife of Atreus. The importance of these journals cannot be overstated, as they serve the foundation for the future public's understanding of Denis, though it would be a year before they would be able to begin translating these and other documents that had been found.
I have written these things only so that they might be known to future seekers, whether they be of Dunny or human origin. Catherine.
In 1991, the three made another trip into the Dunny Caverns, but unfortunately, John Lofton would not return to the surface.
The events of that trip have shaped me, and although I chose not to recount the details, I will note that I broke the rules and permitted things that I regret to this day. It was a very trying experience, but neither Elias nor myself could help but continue pushing forward, albeit with some additional care. Dr. Watson.
Elias continued to share more information with the Millers. It wasn't long before their project shifted from a story about the discovery of the cavern to the stories told by Catherine's journals. In 1992, things began to move quickly. Dr. Watson formed an expeditionary group to perform a much more detailed and lengthy examination of the cavern. It was here it became clear that Dr. Watson and Zandy had different views on the future of Denis.
It appeared to me he was taking some rather extreme view regarding restoring the city to its original glory and re-inhabiting it with people who called themselves Denis. Dr. Watson.
We feel the call. For many of us who have the blood of Denis within us, it calls us home. Elias Zandy.
Unfortunately, Dunny and its restoration would consume Elias as his health deteriorated. He underwent open-heart surgery in 1993. His doctors warned him to slow down. That same year, Dr. Watson brought Rand, Robyn, and Ryan Miller to the city for the first time. This was shortly after they had completed their work on Myst, but still before its monumental release.
They were awed by the place, stating that our descriptions and even photographs of it had not nearly done it justice. Dr. Watson.
The Miller brothers returned again in 1995 with Elias and Jeff Zandy. This time was particularly memorable. Elias and Jeff had a large philosophical disagreement regarding the restoration of the city. Jeff had strong opinions regarding the path his father was taking. It was his belief that the restoration was never meant to be purely physical, but spiritual.
Elias didn't understand that position at all, and the arguments grew heated at many points. As far as I know, the two parted ways after that, and I don't know if they saw each other again. Dr. Watson.
In 1996, Elias Zandy died of a massive heart attack. He left his fortune to the Dunny Restoration Foundation, a nonprofit organization with Dr. Watson as the sole chairman. No money was left to his son. However,
Elias left the lands he had purchased in New Mexico to Jeff. A year later, Dr. Watson founded the Dunny Restoration Council along with Dr. Marie Sutherland, Dr. Ikuro Kodama, and Victor Laxman. 2 years later, they invited Michael Engberg to join them.
A new 5 reign, to bring them home, to return their life, to unite their desires. Words 2:24 through 27.
It is worth noting, Dr. Watson offered Jeff Sandy a seat on the Dunny Restoration Council, but he refused, saying that his vision for the restoration was something beyond what the council could comprehend. We will explore the particulars of that vision and the future of Denis in our next deep dive. Till then, this has been Esto for the Cavern Today, signing off.
Greetings, citizens. Dalken Starbyne here. You know, I've been alive for 33 years. For 30 of those, I've been a Myst and Cyan fan. And for 18 of those, I've been with the Cavern Today. Myst was one of the first video games I ever played. You could say I grew up on the series, and that wouldn't even be that much of an exaggeration. I watched Uru come to life, then fall into slumber, only to then awaken once again. And in that time, I've met so many wonderful people. Some I still know, some I haven't seen in many years. Some have moved on to where we all must eventually follow. And some, sadly, I've just simply lost track of, and I'm left to wonder if they're well or if they even remember me at all. And then some I just met in June. You see, in June, I attended my first Mysterium since 2009. I saw many friends, some for the first time, and met many more. I saw wonder, I saw passion, I saw love. I saw a magic I wasn't sure I'd ever see again. And when I say magic, I am being poetical, but in a way, I feel as though I'm also being a little bit literal. You see, a lot of things seemed to conspire to try to keep me away from Mysterium this year, and when I got there, it seemed like it just kept going. So many times I could have given up. So many times I could have taken those troubles as a sign from the universe telling me that I should just throw in the towel and cut my losses. But each and every time it was my friends, my family, both new and old, that turned disaster into discovery and obstacle into adventure. A delayed flight that would have meant a day late arrival became a longer trip, and that culminated in forming a new friendship. An accident that on any other day would have meant the end of my trip turned into a moderate inconvenience, a fun story and some laughs. The list goes on. Time after time after time, I was presented with situations that I don't think I'd have had the strength, will, or determination to overcome. By all rights, it should have been the worst trip of my life. Instead, it may well have been the best. And in all this, a spark of inspiration that has refused to ever go out, no matter how cold the embers of passion and creativity had grown in my spirit, has been ignited once again, this time into a blazing star bright enough to light the whole sky. Or at least a lake bright enough to light the whole of the cavern anyway. I wrote much of this on my way back home from the convention. I've come back to a great deal of uncertainty, a daily struggle that had begun to wear on me in ways that, before visiting Spokane this year, I hadn't even fully realized. I still don't know what the future holds for me. I don't know if I'll manage to achieve my goals and make my dreams come alive. But I do know that whatever happens, I have an absolute legion of the world's best friends backing me up through it all. Cavern family, as Sh'aeri would put it, holds together and holds strong with bonds more powerful than I think I might ever be able to fully understand. Perhaps the most important thing I've learned is that our Cavern family aren't just the friends we've made in Denis or its ages. They're all the people who help us make it so far with so little. They're the friends who love us for just how weird we are and love this little world we're all a part of and may have only discovered it through ourselves. They're even, however briefly, the strangers we meet in passing, but want nothing more than to help a fellow explorer just trying to make their way out in the world, expecting nothing in return, simply hoping that we would do the same. To all of my friends out there, I hope you know how much I appreciate you, because any words I might be able to conjure are woefully inadequate. You are truly magical. You are my superpower. You are how I can deal with an exploding key like it's nothing. As we take time to remember everything important to us about Myst and our community this anniversary, please never forget to love your Cavern family. They certainly love you. Perhaps more than you may have realized was even possible. Thanks for listening to me ramble on for a while. For the Cavern Today, this is Dalken Starbyne, signing off.
Thanks for that retrospective, Dalken. Next, I'm pleased to reintroduce a segment we haven't featured on TCT since our last anniversary podcast 10 years ago, the TCT Mad Lib. For those unfamiliar, and for those who haven't been tortured by Naybree, Mad Libs are a game in which some particular piece of writing has words removed from it at random. The players are provided with a list containing only the parts of speech of these words, completely out of context, which they then fill in with words or terms of their choosing. Then the words they choose are filled into the blank spots in the original text, usually with very silly results. For our TCT take on the Mad Lib, we usually take something from the Myst series literature. In the past, we would collect answers on the old TCT forums, but this time, to make it even more special, we solicited answers directly from you, our fans in the greater Myst fan community, over Discord, Twitter, and Facebook. Now it's time for the big reveal. The source text for this TCT Mad Lib was Atrus's monologue in the fireplace at the end of the original Myst, the one that begins with, "Who the devil are you?" I'll now turn things over to our resident Atrus impersonator, Ankhangel, to recite the results of the game for you all. Enjoy.
Who the Pegasus are you? Don't come here to Goofy Ridge, Illinois. Not yet. Oh, I have many cookies for you, my sousaphone, as you know.
Hey, allow me.
Oh.
I'll take it from here.
Well, by all means, then.
Who the Pegasus are you? Don't come here to Goofy Ridge, Illinois. Not yet. Oh, I have many cookies for you, my sousaphone, as you no doubt have from me. Where should I begin? Perhaps my potato is in order. My name is Dave Otis. I fear you've met my second cousins, thrice removed, Harris Fogsworth and Bodie McBoatface, in the putrid and brittle yarns in Pittsburgh, in my observatory. My observatory. Oh, it contains my curtains, my picklings. Oh, I pickled many yarns that ran to loquacious places. It's a monarchy I learned from my mother's sister's niece's cousin's great-grand-aunt many years ago. Oh, but the putrid and brittle yarns, those were different. I pickled those yarns to polish over banana-y wood carvers that might stumble upon Pittsburgh. But I had no idea my own second cousins thrice removed would be polished. My second cousins thrice removed, Harris Fogsworth and Bodie McBoatface. We had many bowler hats together. I gave them free rein to the yarns. Perhaps it was not wonky. I could see the bananas growing in them. I had not told them about the putrid and brittle yarns. Their aardvarks went wild. They dreamed of black truffles and the Hope Diamond. Of course, they did not know the yarns were polishes. They begged for access to those yarns, and I, of course, denied them. Oh, they devised a sofa a jammed sofa. I had no idea to what extent their bananas had progressed. Their own father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate. They used their own father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate. Oh, my dear big McLarge-huge, to lure me here to Goofy Ridge, Illinois. Of course, I could return to Pittsburgh, except they removed a single pancake from my Pittsburgh running yarn. I cannot return without that pancake. You, my sousaphone, can bring that pancake to me. Oh, I pray you believe my potato above the lies that my second cousins thrice removed have told you. If you would find it in yourself to return that pancake to me here in Goofy Ridge, Illinois, I could go to Pittsburgh and bring a feather duster to my second cousins thrice removed for what they have done. I must return to my pickling. I pray that you believe me. Please hurry. Bring the pancake. Bring the pancake with you.
Okay, I still have no idea how we got Rand to agree to read that for us, I'll be honest. But thank you again to our surprised guest of that last segment, Rand Miller, for agreeing to read this complete gibberish out loud for everyone's amusement. Hey Rand, at least you didn't get the 4 million thing from Nareem. And with that, we've come to the end of our Myst 30th Anniversary Special. We want to give a tremendous thank you once again to our very special guests, Rand and Robyn Miller, for helping make this a truly special anniversary celebration. Here's to another 30 years. This episode of the Cavern Today contains trademarks and or copyrighted works of Cyan Inc., all rights reserved by Cyan. The Cavern Today is not an official Cyan product and is not endorsed by Cyan. The Cavern Today is a Guild of Messengers affiliate. For more information and Cavern news, visit guildofmessengers.org. And for the Cavern Today, this is Sh'aeri, signing off.